hope you're feeling groovy as we're about to review another movie.
Welcome to Faithful Film Fanatic. Today I have guest on Finn. Finn, what's your last name?
Haverkamp.
Haverkamp. All right. Um, I'm just curious, what was your initial impression of this film, House of a Thousand Corpses?
Um, a little odd. I tend to really like fringe sort of genre. It's actually kind of my favorite genre. Um, but this was a little disturbing to me. I don't really like up close and personal violence. Like I do not watch horror movies. It's just too disturbing for me. Um, so there are a few shots in here where I just kind of averted my eyes, which I don't really like to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, like if Kill Bill, for example, when she's slicing through, the 99 goons, that's
Yeah.
fine. But when you have something that's like this, where people are pretty brutally getting shot at close range, that's not something that particularly appeals to me. Um, but I appreciate, the creativity. The editing in particular was pretty unique, um, which is fine. I like when films explore and experiment and take a unique approach. I'd much rather have that than something that's sort of clean cut.
Right.
Um, so my initial impression was fine. And in particular, I like the ending. The last 15 minutes or so was definitely the highlight for me. What about you?
Interesting. I liked the beginning with Captain Sapbolding, the clown,
Hmm. Hmm.
and ev- after we didn't have him as like the main bad guy anymore, I felt like the movie like took a totally different turn,
Yeah.
and it was very uncomfortable and at times unwatchable for me.
Yeah. Like, what's an example of something that was unwatchable for you?
I guess first thing I could think of is uh, the actor Rainn Wilson who plays the
Hmm.
character
It
Bill.
was really good. He did a great job.
Yeah, well, his head on that platter of food
Yeah.
that was weird to me,
Yeah.
really, and just these these people in this house just really weird and made me uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
so like I, when I watched this movie, I didn't know anything about it. It's just a random movie I picked. You know, I wanted to go into a movie not knowing what to think and just kind of review it off of never seeing it before. And it was really weird. And I mean, I didn't like how uncomfortable it made me, but at the
Hmm.
same time, I feel like you have to have some respect for the writing
Yeah.
to make you feel that way because it takes a lot of talented writing to make you feel something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the scenes and the direction of the writing was like, for example, when the police officers uh go to inspect the house, and they break and just like the tension is building and building and building. And they break open the shed and like find all of the abused, kidnapped women in there. And that was a really well done scene. And then you have Walter Goggins, who I love from The Hateful Eight. Just like this execution, it was like it might literally have been like 60 seconds that shot holds. And again, that's not something I could watch. I just turned away and waited for it to be over.
Yeah,
Um, but I appreciate the patience and the tension that they put into that scene.
I I like Alfred Hitchcock a lot, and I remember watching one of his interviews, and one thing he always talked about was how he never wanted to make something where the audience has to turn away from the movie. You know, like And so
Mm,
that's kind of interesting to me. And
mm.
I feel like I agree with that because, like, if you're watching something like this and then it's you have to turn away,
Yeah.
then the movie almost like loses that movie feeling to it. Like it's almost making where you just want to turn it off and not watch it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that is definitely intentional. So I think that's just two completely different philosophies to movie making. Obviously, Rob Zombie would disagree with Alfred Hitchcock. Uh, I think they're both valid. I think those are both valid, expressions of art. It's funny you mentioned Alfred Hitchcock because last night I also watched The Lady Vanishes. Have you seen that one, like 1938, 1939?
um, I think so. I have this collection of like 20 film shorts of his, and so I
Yeah.
think that might be on there. I
Yeah,
might have
I
watched it.
just it's just funny you mention it since I literally just watched that last night also.
Yeah.
Um, but about this movie, have you seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I have not.
Oh gosh,
Honestly,
gotta
I,
watch it.
this is probably the first year or second year I've actually been open minded to watching horror films.
Yeah,
For the longest time, I was afraid to watch horror films.
hmm
And then my friend and I started watching Bloomhouse, and
yeah,
I kind of fell in love with Bloomhouse. And I liked Bloomhouse a lot. And I like their style. I like Truth or Dare, Get Out, Happy Death Day, Belko Experiment. I think they're very unique, and I like the films they make. And so it just made me want to try other different companies that have done different horror films. And I kind of think I should have like thought twice before watching this movie.
yeah. You really never know. What's funny is if I weren't planning on doing this podcast with you, because I'd never seen the movie, I would not have finished it. I definitely would not have finished the film.
Yeah.
But um, in a way, I'm glad I did, just because the ending just gets really bizarre and interesting and creative. So different from the rest of the movie, like how far it goes, like supernaturally. Like I love the Mudmen. I mean, they lower them in this casket into this really cool looking like grotto set, and like these Mudmen tear them apart, and she's running down this hallway through these like skeletons, and Dr. Satan is a super cool looking character, and he's experimenting on her or one of the guys. I don't remember which one now. Maybe yeah, not which one was he experimenting on?
I honestly I had such
Oh,
a
it was
hard
the other
time.
guy.
I might have been Jerry. It might have been Jerry.
Yeah, yeah. And then whoever like the axe wielding character is that chases her, also great looking character, and he takes his mask off, and it's got like this crazy looking like bug mouth, and
I think that's
uh
Tiny. Might be Tiny. There's
the
some
character's name
character
is
named
Tiny.
Tiny. Yeah.
Um, so the ending definitely was definitely the highlight for me. Are you familiar with the final girl trope of slasher films?
I am not. I have not watched that many slasher films until like just now, recently. No.
Sure. Well, the final girl trope is that at the end of a slasher film, you have four, five, six characters who are the core group, and then one girl, female character, gets away at the end. It's just kind of like the story pattern. So when I was watching this movie, so like the most famous one, which shouldn't surprise you, is Halloween, and Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, she gets away at the end. So she's the final girl of Halloween, and then there's almost always one in other movies. So it's kind of fun to see like who it's going to be. Usually it's the main character. But during this movie, very early on, I could tell nobody's getting away. There's nobody surviving this film, which like as a concept is like much more sadistic than these other slasher films where it's kind of like they end in hope. And this movie ends in like despair, like they lost, like it's just evil, evil one. And that kind of, it's a much more sobering ending than even some of these other slasher films.
I didn't understand the concept of the bunny. Like, why did they have to get dressed in a bunny costume? Like, is there something about that in slasher films that I just didn't
No, the
pick up
bunny
on?
I don't know about. I'm not aware of any particular reason they did that. One theory would be that like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole, and she chases the rabbit down the rabbit hole, and they
Yeah.
get lowered into that grotto and that casket. It's the only rough theory I would have.
All right, because that was so weird to me.
Yeah.
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 And did you think the movie was scary or was it just uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable. I don't really get scared of movies. Actually, the only time I think I've ever been afraid in a movie is one of the scenes in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, it's a legitimately frightening scene. Um, it's also probably one of the most brilliant scenes in cinema history, or at least that I've seen. You really need to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Other than that, I don't actually get afraid in movies. So that, but I get disturbed by movies, which I did in this time a couple of times.
I was uh, I was disturbed, but I thought the whole premise of it was very stupid. And maybe it's because I just didn't get it, but like you have these characters and you're supposed to like care about them, but I did not really like care about them that much. Like I was disturbed for them, but like I I wasn't like connected with them. There's nothing to them that's like, oh no. And it just felt so unrealistic. Like these you could tell the acting was good and you could tell that these characters were uncomfortable. And if they were uncomfortable, why didn't they try to leave? I felt like they took too long before they actually did try to leave. And then the way they went on trying to leave, I was like, that's the stupidest thing. Why get out of the car to unlock the gate? Just drive through it. I mean, not, I didn't get it. I thought it was really cliched and kind of stupid.
Yeah, I understand that argument. I feel like probably a lot of other people feel similarly. I feel like I kind of bought it actually. I thought I didn't care about the characters except for maybe Rainn Wilson because I'm so familiar with him, and he's such a good actor. In the very brief screen time all the characters have, he really sold himself. Um, so that aside, they were kind of in this really precarious situation where there are guests in this home and it's pouring out and they're waiting for their car to be fixed. It's the same family, so they're kind of beholden to him. So I believed it. I thought it was pretty, realistic reaction from them. And they get to the gate and, you get out and have to unlock it. And I think that's something a lot of people would do too, whether or not your car would be even capable of charging through it. So, yeah, I would feel differently about that than you did.
What about the moment that they come up to the house and there's all these dolls with their heads cut off? I
Yeah,
mean,
that was
for
disturbing. Yeah.
me, that would have been enough to like take my chances and leave. I couldn't buy it that these characters, you know, were willing to go into that house. And Chris Hardwick, I've never really seen him act before. I just like him on his game show. You know what game show I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember which one is it?
The I don't want to get the title wrong. It's
Oh my gosh, that I did not put that together. He's the Hollywood Reporter guy.
yeah, that too. But I recognized him from The Wall.
I
Yeah, The
see.
Wall, the game show.
No, I'm
I
not.
don't know if
No, I
you've
don't know
seen
that
that.
one.
Okay. Well, anyway, his character, I I could not believe that somebody would be as dumb as what his character was, because like he's the one that was dragging his friends, and his friends kept trying to talk him out of this and that, and it just it was hard for me to buy. I mean, how did you feel about Jerry specifically?
He's kind of not very smart. he just he's very poor at making decisions, and he yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job acting actually. Let me correct something real quick. Chris Hardwick is not the Hollywood Reporter guy. I was thinking of somebody else named Billy
Oh,
maybe.
okay.
So that's a correction. But
Yeah,
considering
just
he was consistent. He was a
yeah.
consistent character in kind of his behavior.
That's a good point. He was very consistent, but I mean, at the same time, we I feel like when we're watching a story, we are kind of due to like see these characters slowly develop. And I understand it's hard to do because these characters aren't really around that much. But Jerry and that one chick, I forget her name, that makes it off into towards the end of the movie. I mean, those two characters, I felt like we should have had something in us to care about them. We should have learned about them as the movie progressed, and kind of they should have like developed. Like I felt like they were the same people throughout the whole movie. And I feel like anybody in that situation would change. Would have to change in order to try to get out. I didn't feel like they changed at all.
Sure, yeah, that's totally fair. They're all four of them are completely flat characters. In this particular movie, I don't feel it's about them. It's definitely about the family. That is, it's almost like they're the anti-heroes. I mean, they're not heroes, but in effect, they're actually the protagonists of the film, the villains. Um, and the victims who are supposedly our protagonists. I don't know if they're really supposed to have whole lot of character development. They're just there to be victims to our actual protagonists, which is also different from a lot of other slasher movies. Like again, Halloween with Laurie Strode. There's always they always have character like Michael Myers in some way, but shoot, what's the movie I was just thinking of? Oh gosh. Because you mentioned they didn't really change. A movie where the protagonist does really change a lot is The Descent, which is a really good movie.
I
Really
have
good
to
movie.
check that out.
The Descent, Descent. It opens up pretty disturbingly. I almost actually didn't even finish it. I would skip the first like 3 minutes and then
Heard.
watch the rest just skip it. Just
Okay.
skip the first few minutes. It start when they're all at the cabin hanging out together. And that's a really good example of a character in a horror movie adapting or changing over the course of the film.
But do you ever like get tired? I feel like I mean, like I said, I just started within the last year or two getting into horror movies, and I feel like in most of the ones I've watched, they're so dumb. Like I, I don't understand how come that formula still works. I don't understand how people aren't tired of it. I mean, I feel like in horror movies, usually you always have these dumb characters and they get in themselves in even dumber situations that just so the movie's scary. And I mean, do you ever have a problem with that in your slasher movies or horror movies you
Yeah, no,
watch?
I totally feel you there. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. just to enjoy the film. I just lately, especially, I've just been accepting it's a movie. Sometimes you're right for convenience sake, and that's okay. There are going to be plot holes. There are going to be conveniences. Just move past it and enjoy it. It doesn't need to be perfectly logical. But I'm trying to think of movies where slasher or horror films or suspense movies where the characters are actually pretty logical that maybe you haven't seen since you just got into it. Um,
I
right
mean,
is yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's all good. I feel like Bloomhouse does it really well. I felt like with the ones I've seen from them. I I mean, the Belko experiment. Whenever I was watching that movie, I felt like every single action that the characters did would have been something I would have done, and so I felt like it was a better movie for that and making it scary with these people making realistic decisions. Because it's hard for me to be frightened if people are making decisions that don't seem like anything someone would ever make.
Yeah, there's definitely is a balance there between the suspension of disbelief, where it just like a bridge too far, where you're like, no, I just can't. I can't take this movie seriously. So I totally understand that.
I mean, in House of Thousand Corpses, we have these sadistic, sick villains, and why wouldn't they? If I didn't understand these villains the way they are. Why didn't they just start peeling off the skin of these kids or torturing them or whatever? Like I didn't understand what they wanted with these kids. I mean, they wanted to torture them. I get that they wanted to mess with them, but I felt like the I felt like it was unrealistic in the sense of the movie was going on a lot longer than it should have been. I mean, the I feel like in real life, if you're kidnapped or you're at some stranger's house and you can't get away, that they would do things to you a lot sooner. They wouldn't like spread it out. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I wouldn't pretend to get in the mind of a sociopath. Um, but the impression I got is that it's not. You can't put logic to it. It's not just about getting them to your house and murdering them. There's more psychosis involved. This for the father character is about like creating artwork, and it's not even about really the murder for them, like carving into these girls and controlling them. And yeah, so to me that didn't seem to be the point, was that they're just getting them to their house just to straight up murder them. And
and
that's
so you
definitely the
felt
end goal.
yeah, and so you felt like Dr. Satan and his people, I guess you could say, you felt like they were more of the main characters versus the victims. The victims were more
Yeah,
like,
yeah, definitely, because the movie is really about them. It's about this family, not about the victims. Really could have been anybody. They just kind of made them relatively generic 20 somethings. Whereas
it's
the
funny.
characters in the family all have very strong personalities.
I never really stopped to think about that, but that's a good point. Did you find it kind of peculiar? Like, if we're supposed to believe in this, then why would the why would the clown? But I guess the captain, the way the movie ends, Captain Spaulding, I think his name is. It made it look like he worked with Doctor Satan, right? Like that's what you understood from the way the movie ended.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the bad guys. He was part of the same group. I mean, the sort of the main father guy was in his back seat, uh, which I
Oh,
saw
yeah,
coming.
yeah. I I wish there was more screen time of Captain Seppolding. He was actually the only bad guy, or I guess good guy, if the bad guys were the if we're moving. And, I felt like he was, in my opinion, the strongest character. Enjoyed the movie a little bit more if he had a bigger role in it, because I liked him more. I thought he was funny. I thought he was a little statistic, and I almost kind of wished like House of Thousand Corpses would have been at that gas station. I think that would have been more interesting.
Sure. Yeah, I agree that he was definitely the strongest character. I mean, strongest actor alongside Rainn Wilson and most interesting character. He kind of has this dry. He almost seems like a normal dude. Like he comes off as a normal dude, like slightly bizarre, but clearly he's way more bizarre than he even lets on. Um, but just when he's facing up to the robbers at the beginning, just like his whole attitude. Yeah, he's a really good character. So I can understand that. There are two sequels, The Devil's Rejects and then something else. Are you interested in seeing the sequels, or you're kind of done with the franchise? Because I'm pretty sure he's more so in those.
I Are they by Rob Zombie? Because
Yeah.
after watching this, I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to watch any more
Yeah.
Rob Zombie movies. I mean, I don't know. It would. I would probably try to get someone that likes that stuff to watch it, and if they liked it, then maybe I'd think about it. But I mean, if he was the main character, like the main bad guy, same actor, same everything, I might consider it.
All right. All right. I could go either way at this point. I don't feel the need to watch it at least right away, but um I'm not totally against it. If only because average reviews put it higher than the House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm kind of curious how it's different or maybe better than, because I see a lot of promise in it. I mean, it's not a bad movie.
And so I don't forget, I'm curious. What you said the sequels are what?
Yeah, The Devil's Rejects, and then the last one is Three from Hell, numeral Three from Hell.
All right.
He also did the Halloween remake, Rob Zombie, in 2007. And I definitely want to watch that now. In fact, I fully intend on watching that because the only Halloween I've ever seen is the original. And it's a great movie, but I didn't see the most recent remake just because, I don't know, I just don't really care. But with his filming style, his filmmaking style, I am definitely curious to see how he interprets Halloween. So I'm actually going to watch that now.
Yeah. I'm just, let's see, Captain Spaulding. See, just from what I read about it, though, it still doesn't sound like, from the plot of The Devil's Rejects, that Captain Spaulding doesn't sound like he's the main character. It sounds more like he's a supporting character.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer or anything, so I'm not sure.
I was just reading about it. It said these characters are heading to a remote desert motel. The killers reunite with Baby's father, who's Captain Spaulding. So it just makes it sound like that he won't be like that big of a role in it.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking about it. Just thinking about moments of the movie I really liked. At one point, um, in that attic, one of the girls she's not tied up, or she is, and she asks the guy to let her go, and he does. And she's like, okay, I'm just gonna go now. I'm gonna leave. I'm just gonna go now. And he's over there like eating cereal.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And then the main guy comes up, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he puts her in the prison cell, and he looks back, and the guy just like shrugs his shoulders. Like, what are you doing with her? He like looks at it. He's like, what's going on, man? He just shrugged his shoulders. It was really funny. It was a really, really good moment.
I I mean, I guess if I went back and watched that specific scene, I might find it more humorous now than I did before. I just know, like, at that scene, at that moment, I knew that that was dumb, and I felt like there's no way the guy is going to let her go. Like, there's got to be Otis or someone else around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. And you made that call correctly. Oh, that would
That's
be a
one thing.
subversion of the genre. They literally just walk out of the house, just like bring the FBI.
Dude, that'd be kind of cool. I would like to see all these sick people get arrested. But I I don't get it. Like, I have a friend, and I could watch any movie in the entire, and by 15 minutes of the movie, three or four, he'll like narrow down how the movie's going to go within like the first 15 minutes of the movie, and he'll have three or four what options, and the movie always ends in one of those options, and I don't understand how he does that. Like, I, I'm not that good with details. I don't understand how people can do that. That's bizarre to me.
Some people definitely have a knack for it. One of my brothers is really good at that too. And I think about, I watch Red Letter Media, and Rich Evans is like constantly predicting how movies are going to go. But I don't at all ever predict where a movie's going to go. And I actually consider it a blessing. It's much more fun watching a movie not knowing what's going to happen. And when I'm watching a film, I'm really just there in the moment. I'm just there enjoying what's happening, watching what's going to happen next, what's going on now, just like watching for details, enjoying the scene. And then I'm always just along for the ride. With the exception of this movie where I knew nobody was going to escape alive, because that was kind of the tone
Yeah,
of the film. Um,
right.
it's I am grateful that I don't or am not capable of seeing where a movie is going to go. I kind of feel bad for people who are really good at predicting movies, except maybe they enjoy it in their own right. But I don't think I would.
Maybe. I I mean, I see what you're saying. So many times when I'm watching a movie with my friend, he ruins it. He'll point out something that I never saw before, and now that I see it, I can never watch the movie the same again.
Yeah, yeah.
You ever seen Shutter Island?
Love Shutter Island. Love it.
That's what I said. I love the movie.
He didn't ruin the
I
ending
thought
for
it.
you. Were you watching it together?
Yeah, he didn't. He I had watched it like once or twice already, and I had built it up. I thought it was just an awesome, amazing movie, and I begged him to watch it with me. And we're watching like 20 minutes into the movie, and I paused the movie because I thought, you know what, this is going to be a movie that's going to trick him. There's no way he's going to know anything that's going to happen. And he looked at me and said, Terry, the movie's going to end like this. Terry, the writing of the movie is very bad because the characters are telling you what's going to happen next. And I'm like, I never realized that. But now, every time I watch the movie, I get so annoyed because I see the characters telling the other characters what's going to happen next. I'm like, why would the director do that? I never saw it.
Interesting. It's that balance. I'm trying to think of what movie that got me thinking about this. There's a balance between foreshadowing and telegraphing what's going to happen, or just giving it away, being too predictable. And I guess I should go back and watch Shutter Island again, because I don't remember what my take on that.
But I promise you, now that I told you that, you go watch it, it's not going to be the same movie anymore. It's going to lose everything that you thought was so great about it. Because now that you know that, you're going to be like, what? You're going to be listening a lot more closely now to everything that's said.
Yeah, well, so not to spoil the movie, but knowing the twist going into a rewatch, because I've only ever seen it once, would be interesting. So I think I will do that. I mean, I really love the movie. I've also gotten into the habit recently of reading books either after or before I see a movie. If I know I'm going to see the movie, or if I saw the movie, I know I liked it and I want to see what the book was about. So this is an example. I read the Shutter Island book after I saw the movie because it's based on a book, and it was fine, but it's not as good as the movie. It's an example of a film where the movie is really much better. And then another example, The Light Between Oceans, which is one of my favorite movies of the last few years. Saw the movie, absolutely loved it, read the book, and the book is also good, but just not to the quality of the movie. I mean, because the acting, it's Alicia Vikander and Michael Fassbender, who is my favorite actor. You just can't match it. So it has been fun kind of comparing.
What I would be interested in, I've never read The Shining, the book. I think it'd be interesting to read that book of The Shining and comparing it to the movie. Have
That's
you
funny
read
you
the book?
mentioned that. I have. I saw the movie and then I read the book. I'm not as huge of a fan of The Shining as most people seem to be. I thought it was fine. I'm not enamored with it like I am with a lot of other movies. I appreciate like the artistry of it, and it was a good movie. What's interesting about the book, and the book was, I don't know, I guess I put him at equivalent for me. The book was good, but I don't think it was great. It wasn't like exceptional to me. Um, but
Well, the book and the. Oh, sorry.
no, you're okay. What
Uh,
the book has that the movie doesn't is that the book has this plot device where there's the heater in the basement, and he needs to go down there periodically to lower the pressure in the heater, like the steam pressure in the heater. And it's constantly this thing he needs to be going back to and forgetting and going back to. And it pays off at the end. They build up towards it toward the whole movie. And it's just a really good like through line of the plot and also a really good ending. And I'm really surprised it's not part of the movie because it's just so good. I don't know. I don't understand why it wasn't part of the movie. That's like one of the main reasons I would say to read the book is in that way how I think it's better.
just curious because I don't know when I'm going to read the book. What was the ending that you thought was buried in the movie?
So maybe I'll tell you afterwards. I guess for your listeners, I'd
Okay,
rather not spoil it if they want to read it. But if you want, I can tell you after we stop recording.
sure. After we stop recording, sure. Hey, you're muted, by the way. Your thing
Yeah,
is
I've been
muted.
muting myself intermittently, so I'm not interrupting you or
Okay,
making noises.
gotcha.
So I was wondering, now that you're getting into movies, into these kind of movies, Shutter Island, I'm always trying to draw a distinction or find a distinction between horror movies and suspense films. I don't know if I even really like horror movies as they'd be described, but I love suspense. Suspense is definitely one of my favorite genres. And sort of like you, I discovered it only a few years ago because I'd always assumed horror movies were just like bad, basically.
Yeah,
And like what is that movie we were literally just talking about with Jack
House of
Nicholson?
Thousand. Oh, The
No,
Shining. The Shining.
The Shining. Thank you. Jeez, The Shining isn't. I don't see it as a horror movie. I would define it as a suspense movie, and all the movies I like best, I would define as suspense movies. I wonder. I kind of like to list a few off for you right now that I think you should watch since you did like Shutter Islands that I think you'll like as well. Do you want to
I
hear a few?
got you.
All right, so this one's a little
Promise.
bit lesser known. Is called The Hitcher. There's actually two of them, but the one from 1986 I love that. It's a really good movie. Um, really just super enjoyable. I mean, it is known by certain crowds, but not as well as lots of other movies. Um, Another one that this one actually kind of is closer to horror, maybe. It's called Don't Breathe. This is probably what got me into suspense films. This is 2016. The
Oh,
sequel
I've
came
seen that
out.
one.
You seen the first Don't Breathe?
Yeah, I
What did
like
you think of
Stephen
it?
Lang. Uh, I I really enjoyed it because I always liked the actor Stephen Lang after I watched him in Avatar, and I
Oh
kind of
yeah, he's
knew.
the villain general guy. That's right.
Yeah, and I was kind of interested because I knew going to the movie that Stephen Lang was going to kick these teenagers' butts, and I just wanted to watch it because I knew that he would. I kind of expected him to kill these teenagers, and so it was kind of fun. So I watched it from that perspective more than like a thriller perspective because I was just kind of anticipating and excitement waiting to see him uh, beat and just watching his great acting performance. But I need to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, no, he is really good in that. I think that movie is. I actually rewatched it for the first time pretty recently, and I still think it's good. That movie I would describe closer to horror, just because it's kind of a terrifying being stuck in this house, and the guy's like hardcore, like veteran, and
But he's
uh,
blind. That's what
but
makes
he's
it even more
blind. Yeah,
scary.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Um, that's a good example, by the way, of the final girl trope. Because if you remember at the ending, she escapes, but she's chased down by the dog. She hides in her car, and then she has to like trap the dog in her car. Um,
Okay, I
so
remember that.
so there are like what four characters, and she's the one who gets away and survives. That's the
Yeah.
final girl. It's another example of it.
See, so if the final girl is that common, it's used in so many movies. I don't understand. Like that's one thing I've been getting tired of with a lot of newer movies. Is it's just like so many movies are copy and paste of other movies, and it's so irritating. Like it's like nobody has any willingness to do anything original anymore.
Well, that's why it. I'm sure you would agree when you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, Thousand of a Thousand Corpses is very much inspired by it, but not the classic that Texas Chainsaw is. So there are those patterns, but the final girl, it's really fun. I just, I don't know. You watch enough slashers, and it's fun. The final girl trope it's really enjoyable actually, and it doesn't always happen. Sometimes they're two, or nobody, like in this case. Um, but I'm trying to think of other movies you might like. The one you need to watch is the best horror movie ever made, according to most everybody. It's called Suspiria by Dario Argento from 1977. Are you
Is
familiar
it
with this movie?
with Desperia with a D?
Suspiria, like Suspiria.
You said 1970.
1977. It's one top five my favorite movies for me, definitely. You also need to watch The Thing. Did you see John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982?
Nope. Oh,
Awesome movie, great
uh,
movie. You should definitely watch it.
yeah. One of
I mean,
these.
and those are some of the more popular ones. There are others that are kind of lesser well known. The
Yeah.
one more I'll mention is called Duel, Duel, as in like a face-off duel, and it's Steven Spielberg's first feature-length film. I'd never heard of it until about a year ago when I watched it. 1971. It is such a good movie. It's really tense. It's a very simple film, gorgeous cinematography, scenery, really good just acting and terror. If you've never seen Duel, anyone who may be listening to this podcast, you should definitely watch it and go into it blind. Don't worry about watching a trailer. Just watch the movie. It's a really good movie. Sorry, you cut out for a minute. I didn't catch all of that.
I said that's the problem. Yeah, movies. I ruin them so often.
Yep. Yep. It's true. I try to watch if I know I want to see a movie now from like the initial trailer, I won't watch anything. Won't watch any trailers for it. I don't want to know what's happening. Like I knew I wanted to see the Matrix Resurrections because I'd gotten into the Matrix recently, the trilogy. I mean, I saw the first one when it originally came out, but so I tried to not watch anything about it because I knew I wanted to see it. So I'm like, well, what's the point in watching the trailers to sell me on it when I already know I'm going to go see it in the theater? And I did, and I don't regret it.
Let me ask you this: did you watch the second and third Matrix movie?
Yeah, I in anticipation of the fourth one, I watched all three of them in like a week.
Dude,
And go ahead.
I I had I have such a hard time wanting to go see the fourth one since Lawrence Fishburne's not in it. In the third one, Neo and Trinity were supposed to have been killed off. So it's weird to me that back or they died or whatever, and Morpheus isn't there anymore. And so many of the main characters aren't there anymore. Um, One I liked a lot in the first Matrix movie. Can't remember his name. Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving's not going to be in it anymore, and I just feel like it's almost like, what's the point of watching the fourth one?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they do explain all those. They do explain all of that, and it has its own original characters who are also worthwhile. Especially in the original trilogy of Matrix, I think the casting is so strong, just through and through, A to Z, every single character. I don't feel quite that way about Resurrections. Um, especially Hugo Weaving is in the trilogy, but especially Matrix and the Matrix Reloaded. I think it's one of the most brilliant performances I've ever seen. I can't say enough about its performance. And I think it's unfortunate that the whole trilogy or 2 and 3 get so much flack because I couldn't believe how much I liked Reloaded. It was such a good movie. I watched it like twice in a row, which I never ever. I basically don't want to rewatch movies because there's always something new to see. Um, and I loved Reloaded almost as much as the first one. I mean, the first one's brilliant. It's like a timeless piece of art, but Reloaded is very, very, very good. And Revolutions has its moments, but overall it just less, just not nearly as good. Resurrections, I really liked. I saw it in the theater, haven't gotten around to watching it again. It's on HBO. But I'm really looking forward to seeing it again. Did you like Reloaded and Revolutions?
I liked Reload. I liked Revolutions. I grew up watching movies. Always been a big fan of them. Gone back,
Yeah.
rewatched them. I liked the second one more than the third one.
Yeah.
As a kid, I liked the third one a lot, but as I got older, not as much.
Yeah. Same. I think you should watch Resurrections. I don't know if you like it or not, but it's a really good. I thought it was a great movie. If you have HBO Max, give it the time.
All right. I have a hard time because I feel like every time I try to go into a movie excited, I get let down.
Yeah, that does happen where you can kind of like overhype it in your mind. This is one where it actually pretty much met my expectations, which I wasn't expecting. So maybe it exceeded my expectations in a way. Trying to think of movies where I was really excited and Dune, the new Dune. It was my most anticipated movie of the year, even over The Matrix, even over Spider-Man, and could not have been more disappointed in a movie. Could not have been more disappointed.
I just I haven't watched a whole lot of newer movies in a while because I've just the one so disappointed in. I went to go watch the new The Kingsman prequel to the first Kingsman movie, and it was awful.
Was it really? Because this is the third one, right? There's the Kingsman, and then the Circle of something. I haven't seen any of them.
So you got the Kingsman and Secret Service is the first one. The Kingsman Golden Circle is the second, and then the Kingsmen is like the origin story of the. So it's like before the first two movies.
Yeah, with Joseph Fiennes or Ralph Fiennes, one of the Fiennes, right? He plays M in 007 now.
I'm not sure.
So, but what was disappointing about it? Did you like the first two?
Oh, I love the first two. Like they're timeless spy movies. They're awesome. The first one's by far superior, but I mean the second one's not bad. My the prequel, uh, it was just weird. Had it did not feel like a spy movie. Um, it's too much. Someone that is follows along with history better might enjoy it more than I did. And then there's this one scene just turned me off on the movie. Ralph Fiennes uh, is torturing the spy, and the way of him torturing the spy is by taking this spy's clothes off and licking him, and just that's too weird. I walked out.
Yeah, interesting. A little odd.
That's so weird. Like, what's the point? Like that weird. I mean, that's I've never seen that as a before. Like that was
That's
weird.
probably why they chose it. They wanted to surprise you.
Well, it worked. I I just left. There's no sense of me staying. That's the first time I've ever walked out going to see a movie.
Oh wow. Wow.
It just it turned me off, and there was no in depth to these characters. There was no cameo of the characters I was hoping there would be, and the acting really sucked. It's just not that great to me.
All right. Well, that's fair. I need to get going, but had a really good time talking to you about this. But I got to sign off for now and get back to work.
All right. Well, thank you. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Yeah, keep in touch. Oh, if you want to figure out who I am, I'm on Letterboxd. My profile is Griffin, Gryffin. So if you're curious to see what else I think about movies, find me on Letterboxd, and you can put it in the show description if you want.
You got it. I will. It'll be a little while before I upload this. So whenever I get ready to upload it, I'll email or message you, and you're probably gonna have to remind me.
Okay. Hey, thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye. What a pretty good episode. Please comment below your thoughts. What did you think of House of Thousand Corpses? Do you agree with me, or like just what?